my screen so that you can, if once you see my screen, just let me know as well if you can see my screen. Then we can be on the same page. Thank you so much. Okay. Uh, enable screen sharing. All right, there's screen. Can you see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen. I'm just going to check that you can see my screen. You can see my screen? Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm ready to start. I know that this session, just for the record, is this is being recorded. You are not able to you're unable to get me to pause and ask questions, but what I would do here is that I will from time to time switch my screen so I can see if you're having comments so that I can respond to that. Okay. So it's a go. You can see my screen, you can hear my voice. Yeah. Just one more yes for somebody, then I'm ready to go. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. Let us start from here. Okay. So today I want to talk about Agile and future of work and Scrum. I think 2-3 weeks ago, I shared information about um, agile way of working as a future of work. I will do a bit of paraphrase in this session, and then I'll deep dive into Scrum to teach you about Scrum. And for everyone who attends this session, who register for this session, we will give you a Scrum Foundation certification for free for showing up. All right. So the agenda today will cover Agile ways of working recap, while Agile is a feature of work. Then I'll deep dive into Scrum and the ceremonies of Scrum, and also I will talk about opportunities that exist in the market and how you can take advantage of that. And the last part, I'll talk about how you can work with project delivery coaching or Concept Word Academy as a parent company. So what the person who is doing this webinar, my name is Davis Wangwe. Who am I? What do I do? I do many things, but in terms of the context of what we're talking about here, I'm a certified Scrum trainer, which means I've done the training, the rigor to teach Scrum as a trainer. I'm also an Agile coach, which means I help to implement Agile ways of working in companies. To date, I've implemented Agile ways of working in 4 companies, ranging from multinational to startup. And in each of those ones, I've learned a number of things that has helped the organization to become much more effective. As a matter of fact, in companies where I've worked, they continue to adopt these agile ways of working as a go-to strategy. One of the companies, I actually won an award with my team as the best team in the whole company. In that company, Zurich Insurance specifically, I was able to deliver a a project, a program of work 6 months ahead of other projects within the program that are not using Agile. So we use Agile to test the market to see how this is how things are going to work. In terms of coaching people to work in this space, I've coached professionals across EMEA, North America, through the Concept Word Academy, of which we're now rebranding as Project Delivery Coaching. At the moment, I'm leading a global team for a tier 1 financial services organization based in the UK, but with branches all over the world. So I have teams spread across the globe, as is where that I'm leading at the moment. So that's who I am. And people that I've trained have gotten jobs. Some of them are earning 6-figure income, £500 a day. People that I've trained in the past. So you might be one of those if you are open to see it. So regardless where you are, what I'm about to teach you today will work for you. So what is Agile? What we're going to cover in the first section is Agile ways of working. What is Agile? The Agile Manifesto. Why being Agile is crucial. And what did Forbes magazine say about Agile, and then any other things about Agile ways of working. So there's a company called Agile Alliance. They define Agile as the ability to create and respond to change. Yeah, so essentially create and respond. They're two different things. You create a change, you respond to change. So create a change means you are thinking of a new way of doing things, like you are being innovative. Respond to change is there's a change in the market, and you're thinking of what do we need to do to make that happen. So essentially you are nimble on the ground. That's what Agile is in simple form. Now, it's a way of dealing with and ultimately succeeding in an uncertain and turbulent environment. So essentially, if you have uncertainty about how the market behaves or about what you want to do, you're not very clear about it, Agile is a de facto go-to way of delivering that approach. So just think about it this way. You want to go to the moon. You haven't gone to the moon before. Nobody has been there before. Will you want to spend 15 years trying to prepare for something that you don't know, or you want to take nimble steps and learn as you go along? Learn as you go along, so you are able to achieve what you want to achieve as you go along. That's essentially what Agile is about. How do you deal with changes? How do you deal with things that are happening in an environment that's so turbulent you don't know what to do? So there's something called a Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto is like a rule book around what Agile really means. And what they essentially said, the guys that put up this Agile Manifesto said that Agile really is about adaptiveness and response to change. Very important, adaptiveness and response to change. So which means if you're agile, think about it, the word agile means you are nimble on the ground. You're not bent on the old ways of doing things. So that's what the word agile means. So agile is about thinking through how you can understand what's going on in your environment that you are in today, identify what uncertainty you're facing, and figure out how you can adapt so that you go along. So as you go along, you're thinking, how can we ensure that we prepare for the future? What is happening in our environment that we need to be nimble to? So I'll give an example. In 2022 today, mobile is a de facto way of consuming resource. A lot of you possibly may be watching this on your mobile phone. And therefore, if you're a company and you have not embraced this digital mindset, which means get the content to the customer on the go, then you are not being nimble, you're not being agile. You're going to be left behind. So agile essentially is about scanning the environment, thinking, what's going on here? How can we respond to that quickly? So the Agile Manifesto says four things that I want to call out in terms of the Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto says that now, a bit of a step back. Agile Manifesto was developed as a rule book for Agile, but it was developed on the premise of software development. They were developing software first. But what they've said essentially is saying this, that they want to deliver value to the customer. How do they want to do that? They said they want to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Essentially, they're saying human beings and the interaction between these human beings are more important than having a holistic level of processes and tools that nobody uses. Essentially, they're saying it's important in order to deliver value for the customer, it's important that people actually talk. They talk, they interact, and I've seen this play out in my experiences, how we have been able to build beautiful teams that sort of work together in synchrony because we're talking, we're sharing information. There's no hierarchy, it's like an open space. Everybody kind of come to the table and everybody's viewpoint is appreciated. So human beings are valued in an agile way. We said if you value human beings, you can get a lot more done. Another thing the Agile Manifesto says was working software is more important than comprehensive documentation. Think about it this way. Imagine I ask you to build me a Tesla and you give me 1,000 pages of manuals about Tesla, but I actually don't have a physical Tesla that I can drive. That's the mindset here. Mindset here is actually it's better to have something that I can play around with, and then I can get the documentation later. So essentially, it's not saying don't do documentation, because some people go up and say, oh, when you're doing agile, you don't need any documentation. That's a lie. You need documentation. Because if you're going to hand over what you have done to people that are going to take it over later, they have to have something that they can reference as documentation to say, if this goes like this is what you should do. But the working software essentially there is saying that we want to get that information to the hands of the customer very, very quickly so we can get feedback from the customer. And that feedback that we've gotten will help us to improve the product that we're creating. The third point that Agile Manifesto says is that customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation. What does that mean? It means if I have a customer that I'm delivering a work for, I want to collaborate with the customer instead of saying, "Oh, this is what the contract says. The contract says you ought to do this by this day. So because you're not doing this by this day, we're not going to do anything with you." I remember earlier this year, we delivered a project for a company in the US, a company called Londra, and we didn't we allowed ourselves not to get hooked up by the contract. We basically became responsive to what the customer wanted. Obviously, the customer has to pay for those changes that the customer wanted us to do, but because we're running an agile project, we're open to say, okay, look, what's the market saying? What else do you want to add? And then we're able to work around that. So that's customer collaboration. The last point is responding to change, which is essentially the core of fulcrum of Agile is about how do you respond to change. It's very important to respond to change instead of saying, "Oh, this is the plan that we said. We have to follow this plan. Unless we follow this plan, nothing's going to work." If you carry that kind of mindset, we are not going to be responsive to change. So, for the record, the Agile Manifesto says these items on the left side of over, this word over, those things on the left side of the over are valued more than those words on the right side of over. But it does not mean the right side of the over word, the word over, are useless. They are important as well. But we focus more on this. Okay. All right. So why is Agile very important? Agile is the only way to flourish in an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. If you look at the way our world is going right now, you notice that there's a lot going on. What you used to know 5 years ago is essentially becoming history. So, how do you respond to that? It's by being nimble. Now, when you think about this, therefore, you see that agile really, more than anything else, is a mindset. It's a mindset, a way of thinking that says, I am not held by the way of thinking of the past. I am nimble on the ground, and I want to respond to changes in the market. So the customers these days are driving the marketplace. What do I mean by that? Today, more than ever, people have choices. They're saying, this is how I want to consume my data. This is how I want to relate to people. And therefore, in order for you to be able to meet the customers demands, as you know, maybe I don't know whether it's happened to you, the world has become a situation whereby people have very limited attention to details. People want to consume information right on the go. Nobody wants to sit down to 1 hour, 2 hour of lectures. They want things in bite-sized form. In order to be able to achieve that, you want to make sure that you have an agile way of working, to ensure that you can cope with changes continuously in the marketplace. So this is what Forbes said about Agile. Forbes says, now Agile methodologies, which involves new values, new principles, new practices, and benefits, and are a radical alternative to command and control style of management. Now, let's pay attention to that. Essentially saying, if you go to the military, they have command and control. You have the boss at the top, tells everybody what to do, and that's it. The people who are like uh, under the boss, they don't have a say. Essentially, you do what you are told. But Agile comes up with a new way of working that says, I am, as the boss, I am not smarter than people that are under me. I just got the opportunity. Therefore, it is better for me to leverage the wisdom of the people that are working with me so that we can build something magnificent instead of saying I am the only one who knows everything. So that's command and control is about the guy at the hierarchy. Everybody follows what the leader says. But Agile says we all work together and everybody brings something to the table. So this agile methodology is spreading across a broad range of industries and functions and even into C-suite. That is C-level suite. So for example, National Public Radio, there's a company called National Public Radio, employs Agile to create new programming. Think of that. You're using Agile to develop new audio programming that you can share with the world. There's a company called John Deere. They use Agile to develop new machines. Saab, the popular Saab car that people drive, produce new fighter jets, right? Using what? Agile. Intronis, a leader in cloud backup services, uses Agile in marketing. Think of that. I actually did one marketing project when I was in Zurich. We delivered that in Agile as well. It was a marketing-led program, and I brought Agile into that space as well to show people how you can use Agile to deliver marketing programs. C.H. Robinson, a global third-party logistics provider, applies them in human resources. Think about that. You're using Agile, right, in human resources. Mission Bell Winery uses them for everything from wine production to warehousing to running its senior leadership group. This is absolutely mind blowing. This is what Forbes said. This is from Forbes magazine itself, right? Okay, so you can see that this is changing the way we deliver project or the way in which we run companies actually. So a simple way to understand Agile is this. Agile is a mindset. I told you about that before. Is a way of thinking, and we have four values, which is Agile manifestos, and then there are 12 principles that support these manifestos, and you can divvy it up the way you like it. You can essentially express these principles and values in different ways. Each company can take the one that works for them and just apply it. So, what are the 12 principles? Number one, I'm going to run through this so that I don't spend too much time because I've got a number of slides to run through. But the first thing that you need to understand with Agile is you want to have early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Keyword is valuable software. Keyword is valuable software. A valuable software is a software that delivers on what the customer wants. All right. So if the customer says I want a software that will have login that uses the iris of my eye, that's a valuable software. I want to get that done early and quickly. And the only way to get that done is through a form of collaboration between the people that are building and the customer who wants what you want. You don't want a situation whereby customer says, I want a login page that uses the iris of my eye, and the customer doesn't get to see or have visibility of that work until maybe 12 weeks or 10 months. And the customer eventually saw what you have built, but it's not what the customer wanted. So we want to get early and continuous delivery of valuable software out. We want to welcome changing requirements. We want to make sure that if customer says, in light of the change in the environment, I want you to tweak this and add this requirement, we want to be able to accommodate that. Number three, we want to deliver working software frequently. Essentially, we don't want to spend 12 months before the customer sees anything at all. We want to deliver something maybe every 2 weeks or every 1 month. We want to get something out so the customer can see what the customer says he or she wants. Business people and developers must work together on a daily basis. We want the customer and the people that are building what the customer wants to work together. We don't want people that are building stuff for the customer to be locked up in a room that the customer doesn't even get to talk to them. We want the customer to have interaction with them. In one of my projects, we had the customer sitting together with us in the room. Well, the person who represented the customer anyway sat together with us in the room where we brainstorm and think through stuff and modify and adapt the way we work. A point number 5 here is Agile says build project around people that are motivated. Why is it important to build projects around people that are motivated? Because if you have somebody who is not motivated, they will come late to work, they will grumble, they will not give their best in the work they are doing. And because we are a team, the performance of this person will affect the rest of the team. So get them to be motivated, which means that you are not controlling their work. You're basically saying, this is what we want to achieve. How do you think we're going to achieve them? The person feels motivated. Look, that I have been entrusted with the ability to make decisions. There was a particular job that I was meant to go and do in Poland, I believe, but I didn't get a job. Or I didn't get a job because the guy wanted a micromanager, and I said to I said, listen, I don't micromanage my team. I give people work to do. I tell them this is what I want you to do. When can this work be done? This work can be done in 2 weeks, and that's it. If you decide to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to do the work, I don't really care, right? I don't micromanage people. So why? Because I trust that people, when you give them a target, they work towards it because that's what makes us feel. It builds our self-worth when we know that we have been trusted with something that we believe that we can do. Number 6 says, just says the best way to communicate information is through face to face. Now, obviously, this was written in the days before COVID, all right, where it's okay, and it's still valid. You want, if you have 2 people in a room or 3 or 4 people in a room working together on a particular stuff, they draw energy one from another and they can work better. Obviously, in this day and age, with globalization, with people living in different countries, face-to-face conversation is becoming a bit difficult. So now we resort to some sort of video Zoom call or some sort of video engagement. In one of my companies I've worked recently, they had a video um, a video call arrangement in the room, whereby even when you're at home, you're speaking, the video will pick up your face and zoom in so that they can see it. If anybody's speaking in the office as well, the video will zoom in into the board that somebody's writing on and zoom into their face so you can see. So there are technologies being developed these days that are trying to make video engagement as near FaceTime as much as possible. Number 7, I believe, working software. How do we measure progress? Is about I actually have a software that works. That's it. Number 8, Agile says one of the principles is that we want to maintain a constant pace of development indefinitely, which means if you put an Agile team together, they can keep churning out work one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, because they are working together. Like um like in the church that I go to, we have a team and they work in a kind of agile way where we have multiple projects that we're doing at the same time. Now it can be stressful at times, but if planned properly, people you just see that the team constantly gets something done over and over and over. Another point here is Agile says um technical excellence and good design enhance agility, which means if you want to build anything, like you want to build a house, well, it only makes sense that you will have a design to say, okay, I want the front elevation to be like this. I want the garden to be like this. I want how many rooms. I want all of that kind of. So you design it on paper first, right? As you design on paper, and as the work continues, if the customer says, I want you to change the first floor into this other way, what do? You go into the design, update the design immediately, give it to the developer. They get the work done. If the customer says, "Oh, by the way, can we move the landscape into this in this direction?" Immediately, the design that you have created at the beginning is updated immediately, fed into the work that's being done, and the work continues. Okay, so that's essentially what it means. We continuously pay attention to our technical excellence by adopting our design, and so that we are constantly working to an updated design document. Another point is simplicity. We want to get the maximum amount of work done without convoluting matter. Now, there's something going on in what they call user experience. I don't know. Some of you may have heard it. You may have not heard it. But if you have used an application before that is very sweet to use, very simple to use, you don't have to crack your brain and say, "Where am I going to point this arrow, or where am I going to upload this document?" You have engaged an application that is built with simplicity. And you agree with me. If you use an application that is very simple for you to use without having to figure out what are they talking about, you want to come back to that application and use it over and over and over again. But if something is too complex, the human brain, especially in 21st century, does not want to think too much. So what you want to do is make it simple, keep it simple, right? Another point is Agile says build your Agile teams around people that are self-organizing. Self-organizing means the team organizes themselves, and this is absolutely very crucial. Traditionally, organizations have this command and control. A boss will tell you what to do. But self-organizing teams, they have an objective. We want to go to the moon, for example. How do we get there? Everybody comes together on the table and they share information among themselves, and they come together constantly. They are organizing themselves. Now the question that might pop up in your brain is it possible for you to have a self-organizing teams without having some sort of leadership? Well, I'll talk about that in a moment, because there's a leader called Scrum Master who is meant to be the leader of these organizing teams. But the leadership role that this Scrum Master plays is not that of issuing commands. It's more like a servant leader, which I'll cover later in the webinar. And last point is, Agile says the team should learn to self-reflect in order for it to be effective. Essentially, what it means is that if you have done a piece of work, you should come around and say, what could we have done better? In which way could we have done this better? Again, like in the church that I attend, the team there every month, they will come together and say, in which way can we do this better? Okay, we've done this month. What did we learn? What did we not do better? How can we make it better? And what that does essentially is you're coming together to build a team that is quite effective. so that you keep getting better as you assess your effectiveness as a team. Okay. Now, what is agile ways of working? Very simple. The ability for you to work anytime, any place, anywhere. Simple. That's it. Anytime, any place, anywhere. So you want a team that can work anytime, in any place, anywhere. And this is the future of work. If your work is going to be that in the future, you will have people that can be in Kuala Lumpur and they can work in the US. You can have somebody in the US sitting down in the room and working in Nigeria. You can have somebody in Malaysia working in China. Why? Because they work anytime, any place, anywhere. Now, because we are having technologies now being built to make this happen, this is the future of work. Some people are still struggling with this idea, but I can guarantee you this is already happening because today I can hire developers in India, and they're working from their house and they're working on a global project. Like the project we did in the US this year, we had our developers based in India. We had one of our developers based in Nigeria. We had some guys initially based in Kenya. We had a Scrum Master based in the US, and everybody worked together to get the work done. So you're working on a global project. You can work from anywhere. You can work at any time because of the different time zone. You can work with anybody that you like. What is the benefit of this way of working? You are empowered. You feel empowered. You can have work-life balance. You are motivated. And if you have motivated employees, it means you have customers that are happy. All right. So I'm going to take a moment break and just check in the group to see that people are following me. All right. Are you off? Are you still following me? Everybody following me? Okay. I just want to see a yes or a no. Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go back to my slide. Okay, let's go back to the slide. So now I want to talk about Scrum. So in this section, I'm going to talk about Scrum. Why is it important? How can it benefit you? How do you get started? So the key thing to know first with Scrum, let me go to this slide first. I'm going to this slide. What is Scrum? And I'll come back to that one. So Scrum is a form of Agile. Now, look at this definition here. Scrum is an iterative and incremental Agile framework for managing complex projects. So essentially, Scrum is a way in which you manage complex projects, but it is iterative and incremental, which means you don't get everything you want to do. You don't get it all done at once. You get it done in chunks, small chunks. So that way you can deliver value to the customer quicker. Imagine somebody says, build me a house, and you decide to build, say, oh, we're going to build you a house, but you're not going to see it at all until 12 months. The person goes away, and after 12 months, the person comes back, and what you have built is totally different. That will be colossal loss. But what if there's a way in which you can build small part of that building complex, and the customer can come and sit and inspect it and gives a thumbs up and say, hey, this is what I want. Now let's go to the next one. Then that's better because customer gets value early. I think there's a slide here that talks about that typifies what I'm saying. You see on this slide, you see on the left-hand side here, the customer explained what they wanted. On the right-hand side here, this is what the customer really wanted. Customer wanted a house that's on the hill, but the customer explained it in a way that says he's on the hill, but he has some sort of windmill kind of arrangement. He has a small house here. Now, the people who are leading the project understood it in this way. The person went to design the house, design it almost like this, but they put a bridge here. Then when it goes to people that are going to build it, they build it like this. You see, they built it almost like this one, but this small house is missing. Now, they hire a business consultant that will talk about how to monetize this, what the customer wanted. They thinking more about skyscraper, right? Now, in terms of documentation, zilch. There was no documentation, zilch. When the house become operational, see half of the roof is gone. Now, the customer was billed astronomically high. Why? Because business consultant thought he was going to be a skyscraper. So you see, the house is tall like that, like, boo, that's the bill. Customer got a lot of bill. And when it comes to support, because what was built, there was no documentation here, the support is exactly that, rubbish. But what the customer really wanted is this. right? So, but imagine if you're running an agile project where the customer gets to see what you are building, not 7 months down the line, not 15 months down the line, but every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. The customer is able to give you feedback and say, what you're doing here, that's not really what I want. Can you tweak this? Can you tweak that? And because there's this constant working together, you are building a product that is fantastic. And this is how I was able to deliver the program, for example, at Zurich Insurance, 6 months ahead of the people that chose a waterfall approach. A waterfall approach is this, where we use this approach to use it. A waterfall approach is this, right? Um, People give you a bunch of requirements. There's no prioritization based on the value that that requirement would add to the customer. This requirement is fixed for the entire project, so you cannot add any changes. You cannot respond to changes in the market, and then the value is realized at the end of the project. But Scrum says no, do value-driven delivery, whereby requirements are gathered, but they have business value. That says which one is of the highest value to the customer. And then as you go along, there might be changes required by the business and so on and so forth. But you do that in an incremental planning session, small incremental planning session, so that you work together with the customer to manage the risk and changes. And then the value is realized immediately after that 2 weeks. You can show the customer this is what we've done. Customer can give you feedback. So when I was in Zurich, it's exactly what I did. Some people in the program follow this approach. I got my work done 6 months ahead of them, and I won an award in the company. All right. So Scrum essentially allows you to deliver project in small increment, very, very frequently, so the customer can get value early instead of waiting till the end of the whole cycle. So, what are the principles of Scrum? There are 6 principles that we have here. One is empirical process control, self-organization, collaboration, value-based prioritization, time boxing, and iterative development. This is called from Scrum Study. We, as a company, are an accredited Scrum Study partner. There are many Scrum or Agile certification bodies out there. So whichever one you choose, the concept is still the same. Okay, so you don't have to use Scrum Study. You can use any one you want, but the concept is still the same. It's still the same. The key thing to understand is when you learn how Scrum works, you also need to learn how to apply it in the real world, and which is where we can help you. Right. So let's look at these 6 principles in a bit more detail. So empirical process control basically says there are 3 things you must pay attention to when you are delivering Scrum. There must be transparency, there must be inspection, there must be adaptation. What does that mean? It means when we are working together, there's nobody hiding anything from anybody else, and we inspect the work that we are doing. We check it regularly, and there's a need to make a correction, which we adapt to changes. So essentially, we are not spending hours and hours and hours developing a plan that nobody uses. We basically say, oh, look, this is what we want to do. Let's get on with it. Do a bit of planning around it, get the work done, get feedback, and move forward. Self-organization, I've already explained that before, which essentially means there's nobody issuing command and say, you do this, you do that. It is the team as a whole organizes themselves, right? And collaboration means we are working together with the customer, everybody as a stakeholder working on the project and working towards a common goal. So collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Number 4, value-based prioritization says we work on a requirement that the customer has deemed to be of the highest value first, so that we can get maximum value to the customer very, very quickly. That's it. So when you have 100 requirement, you must ask the question, which one is of the highest value? The customer says, oh, requirement number 50. Then that is what you deliver first. Time boxing means that there are ceremonies or processes within Scrum that you follow, but they have to be time boxed. They put in a time. Why? Because time is money. I once watched a YouTube video of where somebody was talking about which is most valuable, time or money. And the answer really is time is more valuable than money. If you lose money, you can make another one. But if you lose time, you cannot gain it back. So, for example, the time you have spent today to come and watch this and be part of this webinar, you can never get it back. And that's the reason why it must be something that's of value to you. You must be deriving value from it. If not, it's a time that is wasted. So we have to time box what we're doing so that we can hold ourselves accountable. Iterative development is talking about the fact that you want to develop something very quickly and and just allow it to keep growing. So, for example, if I want to build a car, and we know the full picture of the car, but instead of spending hours and hours and many months to build the full picture, we want to build something. Maybe today we want to build the chassis, or we want to build the rim, we want to build the windshield, we want to build small part of that car, and then test it, make sure it was okay before we move on to the next one. And if possible, whatever we have built, if we need to release it into the market for people to use, we want to be able to do that. I mean, this is how companies like Google, Facebook, all these companies that we all love, this is what they do. They do not do uh, traditional projects. They do Scrum, they do Agile, they do projects in which they can get things out of the market or out of their, they call it time to market. They ensure that time to market is very quick and very fast, right? So, and the way to do that is iterative development. If you have ever seen your iPhone says your iPhone is going to be downloading new package today, please make sure you charge your iPhone and something like that. If you've ever seen that before, it's because that package of code is now ready to be deployed, and they can have, some of these companies have like 15, 20, 100 deployment into their live environment on every single day. They have so many things that they're doing at the same time. So because they work in complex environment, the only thing that makes sense for them is to be able to work very quickly, collaboratively, and get value out as quickly as possible. So what's Scrum in a nutshell? Scrum is a framework. Scrum is a framework, and Scrum is part of the Agile approach. Let me say that again. Scrum is a framework and it's part of the Agile approach. Scrum is not a methodology. See, a methodology is a defined, repeatable approach with specific tools and activities. So, for example, PMP, Project Management Professional, is a methodology. Prince 2 is a methodology. It has definitive defined processes. But Scrum is a framework. It essentially says this is how you should be running a framework that you can use to deliver your project quickly and that can deliver value to the customer. But we don't mandate a rigid approach. And that's the reason why at times, I've been in a project before where we took some part of Scrum, some other part we don't use. Like my very first ever Scrum project, the only thing that I did in that project that added value to the project within a month, all the issues that they had was resolved, was daily stand up. When I started that, the project was already in flight. I couldn't start doing sprint planning, anything like that. I just introduced a daily stand up. Daily stand up with different teams that essentially allowed us to have traction. Before, they used to have like weekly meetings. Once a week is what they meet. I said, no, every day we have to be meeting. Every day, 15 minutes, let's meet, let's talk about what we're doing. And within a month, we began to see improvement in the program. All right. So framework means is a mindset, is a way you can adapt it to your project or your company as you think, as you deem fit. So let's talk about Scrum in a nutshell. Scrum focuses on projects delivered in short iterations. These short iterations are called sprints. Think about, you are running a 100-meter race or you're running 4x4 relay. Every 100-meter race in a 4x4 relay race is a sprint. At the end of that 100-meter race, you hand over the baton to the next leg and the baton to the next leg. That's the way you think about it. So when somebody starts at zero and they've run the first 100-meter lane race, they hold the baton in their hand. And as they exchange the baton, the exchange of that baton is essentially we're adding over to it to go into the next one. And that next leg of the 100-meter race, they are delivering something else. And the cycle continues. So in this case, in a sprint can be between 1 week and 6 weeks. I've never done 6 weeks sprint before. I've done a week. I've done 2 weeks, which is a standard one. I have done 3 weeks and I've done 4 weeks, but I've not done it beyond four weeks. All right. For 4 weeks, it was for a very, very complex project, and it just doesn't make any sense to do 2 weeks because the work wouldn't have been finished. All right, so we did 4 weeks. Now, project people that work on the project, the teams, they call Scrum teams. These are called Scrum teams. Now, Scrum teams are dedicated cross-functional teams, and they are typically co-located. What does that mean? It means you have people with that have got different skill set, and you bring them all together into one room to work together, so they can learn from one another. So, for example, in a Scrum team, you might have a business analyst, you might have a designer, you might have a developer, you might have an SME, subject matter expertise expert in what in that field that you are developing things in. Everybody brings to the table their different experiences, and they all work together to get the work done. Right. So that's what they mean by dedicated cross-functional. Dedicated means they shouldn't be working on multiple projects. You should have people working on that particular project, and but the teams are cross-functional, so they can learn from one another. And why is that important? It allows you to build a team that have knowledge capability to move the organization forward. A scrum master is another role. A scrum master provides leadership, and this person focus is to ensure that we are using the scrum framework on our project. We're following best practices, right? The person is a servant leader. A servant leader is somebody who cares for the team, removes blockers from the team. An example, let's say somebody in your team complains that they have an issue in their house. Maybe they don't have they just person just relocated into this town, and they don't have a place to stay, and that's affecting their job. A scrum master would then think of, is there any way we can help this person to remove this blocker of accommodation so that the person can become effective? So essentially, that's what a scrum master would do. So you can see that a scrum master role is more like facilitatory role. You don't have to have technical knowledge. You could just be somebody who loves people, loves to help people, and you can facilitate workshops. Then you can be a scrum master. Now, is there value in having technical knowledge? 100%. Right. If you go and work in certain fields, if you don't have the technical know-how, at times it might be difficult for you to lead people because you don't know what they're talking about. All right. So for me, I run, I do Scrum and Agile stuff within the tech space because that's what I studied. That's my field, But it doesn't mean that you cannot apply Scrum to other fields. Initially when I started many years ago, I was told, oh, you can only do Scrum in software when you are building software alone. But recently, I've used Scrum and Agile in building web servers, infrastructure, doing DNS and infrastructure stuff that's not software, and so it's possible. Another role that's very important is a product owner. This product owner represents the stakeholders and is responsible for ensuring that the Scrum team delivers value. Think about it this way. Imagine you want to travel to, let's say, Disneyland, and you have the money. You and your family, maybe a family of six, you want to travel to Disneyland. You have the money. You have an idea about what you want. You then outsource the work to an agency to say, look, get me the best kind of deal. The person in the agency who understands what you want clearly and can communicate that to other people in their own team that are doing the work, the leg work to get you the right kind of holiday package. That person is a product owner because that person understands what you want, and that person communicates what you want to the people who are doing the work to ensure that they can get you the right kind of value. So oftentimes we call the product owner the voice of the customer. The voice of the customer. So the product owner is a very key role in a Scrum project because that person understands what the customer wants, and that person communicates what the customer wants to the development team or the Scrum team so that they can deliver value to the customer. The product owner will help to shape the project vision. What are we trying to achieve? The product owner will help to deliver, define the customer requirement. What does the customer want? And these requirements are defined in the form of what we call a user story. A user story is essentially a user requirement written in a story format in a simple way for developers to understand. And these stories are stored in a product backlog. So essentially, think about it this way. Let's assume you have a spreadsheet that has a list of requirements. Like, let's take an example. You are building a house. Oh, I want my house to have landscape. I want my house to be 4 bedroom. I want each room to be ensuite. I want the first floor to be glazed window. I want the ground floor to have underfloor heating. You have all this requirement listed. But in order for the developer to understand that, so that there's no ambiguity. That requirement is now written in a user story. You know, say, oh, you say, for example, you could say, as a house owner, I want my landscape, my garden to be landscape with hibiscus flower, so that when I walk in the garden, the fragrance from the hibiscus flower will remind me of my when I was young, something like that. I'm just making this up, by the way. All right. So now that information is easy. So somebody say, oh, if the owner goes into the garden, they must see a landscape that is filled with hibiscus flower. And that when they see the hibiscus flower, it will remind them of their childhood memory. So that's a user story. So if you take all of this requirement about building a house and you put them in a product backlog, in a document, or in a let's say, using an example that you can understand, put them in a file jacket, right? That you then wrap somewhere and put on a shelf. So every single time you want to work, you go into that jacket and say, okay, what does customer say once again? Yeah, okay, this is it, guys. Let's go ahead and do it. So a product backlog essentially is uh is uh is a tool. Oh no, not a tool. Is a repository of customers' requirement, right? That are also value based. Is a prioritized based on business value. That constantly we go into that repository, we pick up information, and we go ahead and do that. Now, going back to the relay race example that I gave earlier, imagine you want to start a 4x4 on a 4x4 relay race where each 100-meter race is a sprint. Okay. When you want to start, you will have a bunch of requirements that you want to do, but you need to plan it. You need to say, okay, how many can we do in this first 100-meter race? How many runner do we want? How many buttons we have? Are the lanes properly marked? You have all that question. So that's sprint planning meeting. Sprint planning meeting essentially is saying, before we start this leg of the work, what are the requirements? Can we do it? Do we have enough people? How long is it going to take us? Do we have bandwidth? You ask all the questions. That's a sprint planning meeting. Then, as you start to run the 100-meter race, you have many checkpoints along the way where you're checking up. Guys, are we on track? Are we going to hit the 100-meter race? Are we going to get this on time? That's what they call a daily stand-up meeting. Daily stand-up meeting is a meeting that's no more than 15 minutes where you all come together every day to say, what are we working on? What did we do yesterday? What are we going to do today? Is there anything that is blocking us from moving forward? That's 3 questions you ask. What did you do yesterday? What are we doing today? What is blocking us from moving forward? You ask each person in the team that question. And that person, the person who runs this daily stand-up meeting, is ideally the Scrum Master. But as a Scrum Master, one way in which you can build capacity in your team or build a good team is to ensure that people that are within your team, you can allow them to run stand-up meetings as well. So, for example, if you need to go on holiday, the team is not going to be ground to a halt. Again, in the church that I work in, we used to have somebody, one of the team leader used to run the daily stand-up meeting, but along the way, it's okay, look, give it to somebody else. And that's was along the way, somebody else started picking it up and started doing it. You see, again, you are building capacity bandwidth in the team. Now, let's say you get to the end of the 100-meter race, you're about to exchange the baton. You got to check, what did we say we are going to do in this 100-meter race? What did we actually say that by the end of this 100-meter race we ought to have achieved? That exercise is conducted in what we call a sprint review meeting. You review the entire sprint, the entire 100-meter race, and say what went well. What did we say we're going to do? What did we say we're going to achieve? Did we achieve it? We said we're going to run the 100-meter race. Did we run it? We said when we're running the 100-meter race, for example, we're going to throw confetti to those guys that are standing on the bystand. Did we do that? Essentially, you have that conversation to say, this is what we said we're going to do. This is what we have done, right? You review that. You show that to the product owner, the person who is the voice of the customer. They say, Mr. Product Owner or Madam Product Owner, at the beginning of this sprint, you said to us you wanted to achieve this. This is the value you want to deliver to your end customer. Here it is. At the end of this sprint, let us show you what we have delivered. And then you show what you've delivered to the product owner. The product owner looks at what you've delivered, checks against what is he or she said he wanted at the beginning of that sprint, and says, yeah, I'm happy with that. If there are issues that the product owner for example, finds in what you have done, that will be raised up, and you can typically put those issues, maybe the things that are not looking as it should, put them in the next sprint. So as you are taking over the next 100-meter race, some of the things that didn't work in the first 100-meter race, you take them and put them in that bucket so that we can look at that again as a review and move forward. Now, when you have done what we call the demo or the show and tell, or in this case, what we call sprint review, the team then needs to come together to do what we call retrospective meeting. Here you are saying, guys, what went well? What did we do well? What did we not do well? What can we improve upon? So that we have a constant way of improving ourselves, of learning and doing better. So that is Scrum in a nutshell. Now, this slide here just gives you an overview about the roles. As you can see in the middle here, you have the voice of the customer, who is the product owner. This person represents the voice of the customer. But look at what this person does. The product owner communicates the prioritized business requirement. Notice that the requirement must be prioritized by the product owner. This person communicates that to the Scrum team. The Scrum team are people who are doing the work. The product owner creates the prioritized product backlog, put all those requirements in a repository, and defines the acceptance criteria. How will the requirement be acceptable by the customer? That is acceptance criteria. That's what the customer, the product owner, does. Now, the product, this Scrum Master, during this process, the job is to just ensure a proper work environment exists for the Scrum team. But when the product owner gives the prioritized product backlog to the Scrum team, what do? They will start working. The Scrum team creates the deliverables for the project. Basically, they will begin to work on the requirement of the product owner so that they can create that deliverable. And then when the work is done, they will do a show and tell. The Scrum team demonstrates the product increment, what has been delivered, to the product owner during the review meeting, which I've explained earlier. The voice of the customer, the voice of the customer, who is the product owner, based on the feedback he or she has received from this sprint review meeting, does what? Delivers the value to the customer, okay, through frequent releases. Essentially, the work is released and the customer says, oh yeah, this is what I want, thank you very much. All right, the customer then gives more and more requirements and the cycle continues. So this slide is telling you about the roles. So there are 3 roles in a Scrum environment: product owner, who is the voice of the customer; Scrum master, who is the servant leader that manages the team, as it were; the Scrum team, which is a bunch of people who have different values, different skill set, coming together, working collaboratively to deliver what the product owner wants. So how does the flow work? This is the flow. Normally, when you start your Scrum project, there must have been a business case that must have been delivered. This is not something that you do, something that it may have been done by, maybe it might be something that's been done by the sponsor that talks about this is why the business exists. Then there will be a project vision statement that says, based on what the business case says you want to do, this is the vision statement. This vision statement is created by the product owner. Product owner creates this vision statement and explains the vision. Remember, this product owner is the voice of the customer, right? So let's create the vision statement. For example, this project will do X, Y, and Z. This is what the project is set to achieve. So essentially, the project vision is derived from the business case, as it were. And based on the project vision statement, the product owner then creates those requirements in the product backlog and prioritizes them. Okay. And based on the full list of requirements that are prioritized, normally you hold a release planning meeting. A release planning meeting essentially is you take all the requirements here, and the product owner will say, I have 25 requirements, but we cannot get all of them done at once. Can we do the top 5 in as a release 1, then do the last 5 as release 2, do the middle 5 as release 3? So essentially, you bundle the requirement together and get them delivered at once. That's what a release essentially is. A release essentially is a bunch of stories delivered together into production environment. Then out of this product backlog has been prioritized, you create what they call a sprint backlog. Essentially, the product owner identifies the top items that he or she wants to be in the first sprint, where in each sprint, so the first sprint start, let's say out of 25 requirement, 5 goes into sprint 1, and those 5 things will be here, and then each of these requirement that we have in this sprint will be written in the user story format that I mentioned earlier, and then this is where the work will then start. The Scrum team will start to develop the work. They will do what they call they start developing the work. Okay, so this sprint backlog is an input into the sprint planning meeting. So maybe every 2 weeks you plan the requirement that needs to be delivered in that sprint, and when the plan is finished, I'm going to show you in a moment, the work just starts. People start to build, and when the work is being done, you will have your daily stand-up meeting, which is every day for 15 minutes. At the end of the sprint, you will do a show and tell of the work that has been done in what we call a sprint review meeting. And at the end of that sprint review meeting, you would conduct a retrospective meeting. Once you finish the retrospective meeting, you start another sprint. So to start another sprint, you go back into the backlog, pick up new requirement, put them in the sprint backlog, and do the sprint planning again, and start the work all over again. So that's a Scrum flow in a nutshell. So if you want to look at this in a timeline, this is where it's going to look. Let's say you have sprint 1 to sprint X, where X can be any number. In sprint 1, you start first with sprint planning. Remember, sprint planning is where you have your sprint backlog, which is a bunch of requirements that you want to deliver in that sprint. Those requirements are prioritized by the product owner. The product owner comes into the room and say, this is what we want to achieve in this sprint. These are the requirements for you to work upon. The team looks at the requirement, make sure they understand it. Then they do what they call an estimation. They estimate, oh, this is going to be 2 days of work, 5 days of work, and so on and so forth. And then they say, okay, we're going to do it. They commit to the work, and they say, Mr. Pro owner, Madam Pro owner, don't worry, this is not a problem. We're going to get it done. That information goes on. They start to work. At the end of that sprint, they do a show and tell, which is the review. They show the product owner what has been done, and then product owner may raise 1 or 2 issues. Those 1 or 2 issues will fall back into the product backlog and might come in here in sprint 2 as something to be worked upon. After this show and tell, we do a retrospective to say, what did we learn? What can we improve? What went well? And that cycle is continuously done until the end of the timeline, until everything in the product backlog is exhausted, as it were. All right, so let's look at it. It's a typical sprint cycle. Let me just see whether anybody's lost. Let me just check back. Okay, so question here, is user story the same thing as user experience? No. User story is requirement that you have created in a way that people can understand. User experience, on the other hand, is how the customer experiences the application. So let's say, for example, I want to build a banking a mobile app to transfer money. Let's say from UK to everywhere in the world. Let's say I want to do that, right? What I want to do is make sure that that app that I want to build is so sweet to use. It's not cumbersome to use. With 1 click, somebody can transfer. With 1 click, they can set up their account and so on and so forth. That is user experience. Okay. But that user experience that says, I want user to be able to register with 1 click. I want user to be able to transfer money with 1 click is a requirement. That requirement in Agile is written as a user story. So I hope that answers the question. Okay. So that's one question there. Now, there's a question here about, is sprint 1 to 6 weeks? You mentioned 4 weeks maximum, and the image shows 1 to 6 weeks. No, what I said was um, sprint usually between 1 to 6 weeks. But I said the maximum that I have in my own experience, the maximum that I have used is 4 weeks. Okay, so you can do 1 to 6 weeks, but the maximum that I have done, usually in most places, sprint is usually 2 weeks, 10 days. 10 days. That's in most places, that's what it is. But I've run a project before when I was working out of Bulgaria, that the project was so complex. We started with 2 weeks. We realized that actually some things we were doing, we just couldn't finish it. So we started carrying story from one sprint to another. It just didn't make any sense. We just said, you know what, scrap it. Let's change it. We changed the sprint cycle to 3 weeks and then 4 weeks, and then to be able to accommodate all the work. So sprint cycle can be between 1 to 6 weeks, but the maximum that I have done is 4 weeks. All right. Question here, SME and product owner. So SME and product owner are not the same thing, right? A product owner, we've seen what they do. A product owner essentially is the voice of the customer. Let's take the example of the banking app that I mentioned earlier. So you want to do a banking app, a money transfer app that will transfer money from the UK into for the diaspora in the UK, from to go back to Nigeria, or go back somewhere in Africa. The product owner will be the voice of the customer, the person who understands what the customer wants. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want to do? I want you to be able to log in easily. I want you to be able to transfer money with one click and all that kind of stuff. That requirement, that user experience that is documented as a user story, which is a requirement, will be something that the product owner will collect or receive from the customer, or the person who actually has the money to pay for the project, and documented. An SME in this case would be somebody like a banking expert, somebody who understand, for example, Financial Conduct Authority (FCA), somebody who understand how money market works. That person is an SME. That person provides regulatory advice, all right, to the team to ensure that we're doing the right thing. That's an SME. So, but is it possible for an SME to be the product owner? Correct. It's possible for you to have an SME who is also the product owner. Okay. For example, you can also have, in this case, you can also have an SME who is into data protection. You can have somebody who's a GDPR or privacy expert who is brought in into your project to provide privacy expertise that your team does not have. That person is an SME. All right. So that's essentially what an SME means. Okay. So question here, is sprint flow and sprint cycle the same thing? Is sprint flow and sprint cycle the same thing? Yes. So sprint flow shows you the flow of how the sprint cycle move from left to right. Right. So it's essentially the same thing. What we try to do with the sprint flow is show you, we start here, this is how it goes, essentially in a cycle. Okay. So yeah, the answer is it is the same thing. All right. Any other question before I continue? Thank you for the questions, by the way, so that you providing clarity. Okay, let me step back into the presentation. So, sprint cycle, from how long it takes for the sprint flow to complete. Now, in this sprint cycle, a cycle is when a sprint is started and finished, right? Which in a cycle you have the flow from beginning to end. So it's the same thing, right? In this case, we're saying is a 2-week cycle, which means every 2 weeks we run through the Scrum from beginning to the end. Every 2 weeks, which is 10 days. Now, remember, let's go back here to see this is the flow. But here, what from here, this bit here, product backlog, sprint backlog, I get the work done, I do a review and retrospective, and continue this cycle is what I want to talk about here. So let's say on Monday, you want to start sprint 1, the first sprint that everybody's going to work on. What do? You spend time to plan, which is the first thing you do. Again, go back here. Remember, sprint planning. At the end of the sprint, you do a review, which is a show and tell of what we have achieved. And then you do a retrospective, a feedback session. What can we do better? What have we done better? What, and so on and so forth. That's what happens there, right? So sprint planning, you plan the sprint. What are we going to do? What does the customer want? And so on and so forth. You go through the planning process. There's a whole lot of process on how to do planning, obviously, which is beyond what I'm teaching today, but just to help you understand, you do planning. After you've done planning, people start their work on day one. On that same day, they start their work. And then that day you can do your daily stand-up. Obviously, on the first day, there's not much to talk about because you've just planned the sprint. Then on the second day, third day, fourth day, every other day, everybody's working, doing their work, and then they're having what they call the daily stand-up to check in the progress of the work. You make sure, hey, is everything going on well? Was anything blocking you? Again, like I said to you earlier, the Scrum Master runs the daily stand-up, but the Scrum Master can delegate that to anybody in the team to build capacity. Now, at the end of the next Friday, which is the 10th day, you would do a show and tell, a demonstration of to the product owner of what you have done. So essentially, you will say, Mr. Product Owner, Madam Product Owner, we said we're going to do 10 user story to achieve X, Y, and Z. Now let us show you. You will demonstrate it. You physically log onto a computer and show what you've done. You get some feedback from the product owner in terms of what you've done, and then you take notes and say, okay, as a product owner, these items that we had some small problem in, do you want us to include them as part of the next sprint? The person might say, yeah, include them. The person might say, no, don't worry about it. Okay, whatever it is, the product owner determines what happens to any issue that may be raised there, whether to continue to work on them or not. After that, you do a retrospective. Retrospective essentially is saying, what do we do? What have we done better? What can we improve? What should we not? What should we not do again? Essentially, it's about efficiency. After that, usually I will tell you guys to take a break, maybe take a 1 hour break to grab some lunch, get everybody refreshed, and then get them to come back and do another planning for sprint 2. So by that Friday in the morning, we'll do a review session, a retrospective. In the afternoon, we'll do planning for the rest of the day. So that on Monday, second week, we hit the ground running, just start to work. And then this cycle continues. So you can see sprint 1, sprint 2. So let's take an example. Take an example that in your prioritized product backlog, which a backlog that has been prioritized, you have these user stories or AKA requirement, what the customer wants. It is possible that when you take this product backlog, you take out of this information and you make them into a sprint backlog. This prioritized product backlog can be split into multiple sprint backlogs. In this case, for simplicity's sake, you can see we color code it. We have yellow, green, and blue. These are items in the prioritized product backlog. This one, which is a user story that says, as a customer, I want to access the VM Foods online grocery system so that I can see information and services specific to me. This information is broken into these tasks. In order for you to achieve this user story, you can have this task: create homepage, create login, and so on and so forth. This one that is green is broken into these 4 tasks. This one that is blue is broken into this 1 task. So in essence, in your prioritized product backlog, you have a bunch of user stories or even features that you want to deliver. In your sprint backlog, you will take that based on what the customer has prioritized. You will come up with user stories and tasks and subtasks that you are going to work on to achieve what is in the prioritized product backlog. Let me explain that again. In the prioritized product backlog, the customer has a bunch of stuff that he or she wants to achieve, which is the voice of the customer. These things are prioritized, which means work on the one that is this one first, and then this one, and then this one. Let's say in the prioritized product backlog that you see here, let's say we have so 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say we have 7 user stories in the prioritized product backlog, and the product owner says, I want you to only work on the top 3 user stories. You take these 3 user stories, you put them in the sprint backlog and use them for your sprint planning. During sprint planning, now you have these three items. Imagine they've come into the sprint backlog now, and now you are looking at them and say, hey guys, in order to achieve this, what do we need? They will say, oh, in order to achieve this user story, we need this 7 task, this 4 and 3 7 task. In order to achieve this one, we need this 4 tasks. In order to achieve this one, we need this 1 task. So this breaking this user story into task and subtask and estimating how long it's going to take is what you do in your sprint planning. Let's go back here just to ensure everybody understand it. In this sprint planning, what you do in this sprint planning is this. You take the user story and break them into tasks and how long it's going to take for the work to do and how complex it is, which we're going to cover for those who want to do Scrum Master training. We cover that properly. But still, what you need to take away is during sprint planning, the prioritized product backlog, what has been selected by the product owner to be worked on is moved into the sprint backlog. This sprint backlog is then further broken down. This user stories in the sprint backlog is further broken down into tasks that are estimated on terms of effort and complexity by the Scrum team, and the Scrum Master facilitates that session. And once it is been agreed, this is what the team then works on for that sprint. At the end of that sprint, this Scrum team will do a show and tell, a demo that says these items we have committed to do in this sprint, which fulfills these 3 user stories, have now been delivered. The product owner looks at what they've done. He or she may have 1 or 2 issues and then says, yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. If there are issues, this issue that I've had, maybe this receipt is not working very well, make sure you fix this. You ask the question, can we put that in the next sprint backlog? Say, yes, you can put that in there. The thing goes to the next sprint backlog. Okay. There might be that everything you've done, there's no issue. Correct. That sprint is then delivered and closed, right? And then this cycle continues again for the next sprint. So essentially, that's the way Scrum works. All right. So Scrum is useful because it allows us to be able to deliver stuff very quickly. Because you are working with people that are dedicated and cross-functional teams, it allows us to be able to embrace changing requirement. And essentially, what we have also come to know now is that Scrum is not only for software development, which we can use it in an array of industries. So why can you not afford not to be agile? Well, there's a report here in this website called goremotely.net that I found that talks about what is happening in the world. For example, the agile failure rate, I'm starting from the middle here, the agile failure rate is 8%, while the waterfall failure rate is 21%. You see, if agile is going to fail at all, is at least almost times 3. Times 3%, times 300% actually, less than what a waterfall project will fail. Okay, hold on. Let me see if anybody's got a question before I move into here. This one, just hold on. Yeah, all right. Please confirm if sprint flow and sprint is the same. I think we've covered that. Can PM be Scrum Master as well? That's a good question, Sheyi. I have worked as project manager, Scrum Master before, but what I'm finding in the market is a Scrum Master should, or at least understand project management. If you even because at times people don't want to spend money, they are not the same. Because a project manager deals with what's it called, finances, like budget tracking and all that kind of stuff. But Scrum Master doesn't deal with that. Scrum Master doesn't care about finances. A project manager needs to handle finances for the project. Okay, so can PM be Scrum Master as well? Yes, depending on the company. All right. Somebody's about to ask questions. Let's just wait for it. Can you have a PM and a Scrum Master in an Agile environment? Yeah, 100%. So you can have an Agile project manager, you can have a Scrum Master. So an Agile project manager will be there, understand Agile properly, but it's not managing the team. It's basically dealing with senior stakeholder, because Scrum Master will not deal with senior stakeholders. Scrum Master will not go into executive board meeting, for example, because Scrum Master is actually managing the team, that people that are doing the work. The way to understand it is that the way to understand this is this. Imagine you are building a house. Yeah, you have the foreman, you have the foreman, you have the site manager. So the site manager will deal with the customer, deal with how much money is being spent, and so on and so forth. That's the project manager. The foreman is the one who is allocating people to, okay, you painter, paint this one, bricklayer, do this one, so on. So that's a scrum master. The scrum master's job essentially is team level management, as it were, or team level leadership. Project manager is more at the higher level, where you are basically you understand agile, but you're not dealing with the team at that level. You're part of their ceremonies, but you're not intervening with the scrum master as well. Scrum master is doing his job, giving you information, you are presenting that at a higher level. The question that should go in your mind is, why do we even need the two of them? Is because at times you want this person who is doing scrum work to focus and deliver on their work, while the project manager deals with something more at a senior level. So for example, in my current role at the moment, I have multiple project managers, I have scrum masters. you know I don't go to their daily stand, I don't go to their sprint planning session. At times they invite me, I go there just listening, but I don't run it because the scrum master there is running it. Project managers, they have different planning meeting. I just go there and listen because I'm at a senior level, right? I just go and listen to what they're doing, but I don't control what they do. So then I have different meetings with those guys and say, okay, guys, what are you doing here? How can we help, and so on and so forth. All right. So a project manager who understands agile is a very, very big bonus. If you are going to project management, I highly recommend for you to understand the agile way of working. I mean, like I said, agile is a feature, right? Okay. So, but the challenge is obviously most companies don't just want to do agile, because if you're only doing agile and nobody is dealing with finances, somebody that's spending money on your project wants to know, so how am I going to how is my project going? Am I spending money? How much money do we need? So the project manager role is still going to be relevant forever. It's just that Scrum and Agile helps you to do things very quickly. All right, so that's the way to look at it. All right, I'm going to come back to this slide. Let me go back to the slide so that I don't keep it too long. Thank you again for your patience. I'm almost done. So let me go back to my slide. So what can you not afford not to be agile? Well, some 80% of CMOs notice an increase in productivity. Essentially, agile increases the productivity of marketing teams. There's a global bank that we have the case study. I can't run through here, but if you get my video that I did on agile ways of working, I mentioned this global bank a case study. In that thing, they reduce their cost base by 30% by implementing agile. Agile adoption is now the norm, and it has replaced waterfall. Agile success rate is at least almost 200% more than those of waterfall projects. 40% more companies are using agile compared to waterfall. 27.4% of manufacturers rely on agile. So it's not just software, as I mentioned before. Look at this, FBI has adopted agile, right? And then the AI software market is going to reach 15 billion by this year. Essentially, artificial intelligence is the future. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and so on and so forth. But they rely on agile. Why? Because it's complex and they want to get things out to the market very quickly. So there's a wide array of market where you can play in this matter. So I want to look at now opportunities. You can see my screen. I've got what I've done here today is I want to show you opportunities in the UK and opportunities in the US, because I know some people are from North America on the call, some people are in the UK, some people are all over the place. I don't know where you're coming from, but I just want to show you two examples. You see on the screen here, you Scrum Master. Scrum Master can earn £400 or £450 a day. Just think about what that would do to your pocket if you're earning £9,000 a day. That would not be bad at all. And see, it's a 12-month contract, right? And what I want to call out is hybrid, is remote. Remember I spoke about agile way of working at the beginning? This is where it is. So now I started to think about this. Before, nobody would have thought you could do Scrum or Scrum Master or product owner from home. But I'm seeing that actually you can do that from home now. So if you can do it from home, which means you can stay at home, have a work-life balance, and still earn a lot of money. So this is how much you can make, 400 to 450 pounds a day. So if, for example, you come to this class now, we say, okay, come and pay £2,000. Well, you can make that money back in a week. See, so it's not a big deal, right? So Scrum Master, 400 to 450 pounds a day. Yeah, and it's remote. Product owner, this is a UK site, by the way. Product owner can earn £400 a day. Now, they can even earn more than this. But look at this one. It says you can work 1 to 2 days a week. 3 to 4 days can be remote, which means 1 day a week you get to the office, the rest of the 4 days you stay at home. And this one is £8,000 a month, right? You can make that. Now let's look at what happens in the US. This is a start from the US. Look at the US. The US, I couldn't get the salary, but you can see that what I want to call out here is certified Scrum Master, work from home. This is in Atlanta, I think, Georgia. Certified Scrum Master. This is something that this is a job I found. They just got posted 2 days ago. Work from home. Product owner, work from home. All right. So essentially, what we're saying here in the US or in Canada, you can get a Scrum Master job or a product owner job. You work from home. In the UK, you might have a bit of hybrid. I think UK has not woken up yet, but you can have a bit of hybrid where you can work from home partly. You go to the office at times. Personally, I don't. This day I don't do any work that I can't work from home fully. Actually, essentially just to give me work life balance. But this is the future of work. I think that's what I want to call out here. How much money you can make. So, what is a starting point? This is a starting point. Before I go to starting point, I want to show you something here. You see, because I mentioned in my broadcast, I want to show you something about your CV so that you can know how to tweak it. So suppose today, you are in HR, you're in HR, and you're thinking, I want to do Scrum Master. How does it work? Remember, I first of all debunked the whole idea about the fact that Scrum is only for IT. You can use it in marketing. I've shared earlier that you can use Agile in HR for those of you who started with me from the beginning. So what you just need to think about is that on your CV, have you managed a team before? And that team, do you meet on a regular basis? It might be for now, it might be a weekly basis. But if you come for training and we train you and we say, okay, the guys that you are meeting every week now, imagine that you're meeting them every day. Imagine that you've allocated work to them or they have work that they're working, maybe delivery that you have given them to work on, and you're meeting on a daily basis to check the progress of their work. If you even implement that alone, where you meet on a daily basis for 15 minutes and you're checking what they're doing, you are beginning to implement a part of Agile. Remember, I said here, Agile is not prescriptive. Let me go back here. Agile is a framework. It's a framework. It's not prescriptive. It's not like Prince 2 or PMP that is defined, repeatable approach. It's a framework. So, and if you remember, I said before, my first Scrum project, I was working for a company called the AA Driving School. They had a website and an insurance website, and they already started working in a traditional way. That's how they were dealing with a project. But I just finished my Scrum Master training. I didn't have an experience. We didn't have what I'm about to show you now in the market. So I said to them, I said, listen, I've just gone to this training. Let me see what I can do. And the only thing I introduced there was a daily stand up. And within a month, the whole program that was already showing red turned green. Why? Because people started to talking. We started coming from having this collaboration going on very quickly. We know what's going on. Nobody's hiding something under the table. All right. So if you go back to your CV and you think, okay, I'm in HR, but I don't have Scrum. First of all, go and do the certification. You can do it. You can do it with us. You can do it somewhere else. It doesn't matter. About this certification. But just in your CV, put a tweak there that you're already daily stand up with your team. Because when you run daily stand up with your team, first of all, you are speaking the language of Scrum. Two, by that engagement alone that you're running daily stand up, you could begin to see an improvement. So that tweak in your CV, adapting your CV based on that approach alone, will set your CV apart because you are not only talking the talk, you are putting that to use. Okay. Another thing is that, let's for example, you do your weekly planning meeting. Maybe as an HR manager, you allocate work on a weekly basis. You can think about that as a sprint planning, where you're saying, hey guys, what are we going to do for this week? That's a kind of sprint planning arrangement where you say, okay, we come together and we plan what we're going to do for the week, and everybody agrees that and people go away. Again, that's a bit of sprint planning. So you can think about what you're already doing and try and relate it together in a different way. All right, so let's go back here. What is the starting point for you? Number one, understand that Agile is a mindset. And this is the beginning point to become relevant in the 21st century. You cannot run away from Agile in the 21st century. This is the future of work. Now, the next point is, so once you've got this mindset of Agile, which means you're saying, I don't want to think the way I've been thinking because I want to get a different result. I want to adapt a new way of thinking. That's the first thing you need to, first of all, get away from this session. To say, look, I have to think differently The future of work is I can work from anywhere and work with any people as I want. But in order for me to be able to do that, I have to start to think that that is possible. Number two, gain certification. There are many certifications out there. Scrum is the most popular one. There's Kanban, there's Safe, there's Less. There are different certifications out there for in Agile, but gain certification. Again, if you want to do certification with us, we show you the offer that we have for you today, and then you can think about that. Then get coached. I will not overemphasize this. Get coached means get support, get tutored from somebody who has done it before. It's very important, like um I was talking to somebody earlier in the week. I think a doctor friend of mine, in the university, and I saying I have people on my program even right now in the project management space that have gone to uni to study project management, but what it's studying in uni, spend maybe £15,000 or whatever to go to do masters. They still don't understand what they've taught them. They can't put it to use. They can't go and use it to get a job. Why? Because teaching the traditional way of teaching, where somebody just rams stuff down your brain, compared to actually showing you how to do it, and you are doing it and you're getting feedback, it's a game changer. The reason why you get a mentor is so that you don't repeat the mistake. It might be expensive, but trust me, ignorance is more expensive. If you don't know something, it's going to take you longer to get it done. All right. So the coach will tell you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. Share his own experience with you so that you don't make the same mistake. So get coached. And then when you get a job, again, some people miss this bit here. People don't want to spend money. So I don't have money. I don't have money. But the thing is, listen, if you get a job tomorrow and you don't have that kind of support system in place, somebody can fire you because you're going to make a mistake. But I've had people who have done training. I had a lady who did business analysis training with us some years back. She told me, listen, I just need you for three months so that I can get my confirmation. And she pays £200 a month. I think that's how much she was paying. And she'll come in, once a week we'll meet. She will say, oh, to me, this is what they've given me at work. How can I go about it? I'll explain this, how to do this, how to do this, how to do that. At times I might have templates. I say, share my template with her and say, use this template. At times she will do the work and say, can you please review for me? That kind of stuff. You get that support. And within 3 months, she got confirmed. In fact, today now she's moved from business analysis now. She's now a Scrum Master. You understand? But how much is £200 times 3, £600 that she paid me compared to whatever amount she's making now? So if you are crossing over and you're starting a new job, don't let anybody deceive you. If you don't have support, you can lose the job, because no matter how much I teach you in 3 months, when you come on the program, 3 months is not enough. You need to get support as you go along. So that's essentially what I'm telling you. All right. So you need to get a mindset, get certification, get coached, and continuously get support as you go along. Now, how can we help you? Right. So you can gain certification through our parent company, Concept Academy. So Concept Academy focuses on certification courses. We're a broker for, we have partners all over the world that we work with. We help them to sell certification courses, whether it's project management, Scrum, on other kind of certification. So you can get certification through us. You do not have to get certification through us, all right? But it's recommended that you do that. But if you don't want to, it's not a problem, all right? Now, the bit that we definitely believe that you should get through us is this coaching. Get your work experience. We're starting today, right? Which is what I've shared with you is a bit of training. But you get to work on a live project for 3 months. You can put the name of the company on your CV, right? You have access to the job support if you decide. So essentially, if you want on the job support, you can have that. Obviously, if it comes at a cost, we can negotiate that down the line. Now, coaching will be every Saturday at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. UK will meet to coach you in the agile way. You have access to Scrum tools. You have access to Jira, DevOps board, Canva board, Teams, and we have our own platform called Project Delivery Coaching Platform, where you're going to collaborate with other people. You'll be able to put your training to use, you run ceremonies, and you collab with people across time zones. And then you can use our company as employer on your CV, whether UK or in the US. So if you're in the US, you can put a US company, we're registering that as we speak, or UK, you can put that in there. Now, you will not be using Concept Academy or Project Delivery Coaching. We have a different company, which is an agency, a digital agency that we registered, that you can put on your CV. And we'll do reference for you. You will have an interview support. So essentially, if you before you finish, we're going to run an interview, one-to-one interview with you to essentially say if you got a job tomorrow, if they ask you this question, what are you going to say? Actually, there was a guy who joined our program, I think it was 2 years ago during COVID. He's been a scrum master somewhere, but he couldn't get a job. Came around and I basically ran, I think, about 4 or 5 sessions with him and basically asked him, if they ask you this question, this is what you should say. At the end of this session, he got 2 jobs. Yeah. So that's essentially what you can get. All right. So what is it going to cost you? Now, normally our certification is about 600 to 800 pounds. That's how much you run certification. You can go and check this on any other platform. Scrum Master Certification or Scrum Product Owner Certification costs you about 600 or 800 pounds, right? But if you join our program, we will ask you to pay only 450. The 450 is the cost of the certification. Just for the record, the 450 is the exam fee. Essentially, you are not paying for course content. You are only paying for exam fee. So we're not going to charge you 600 pounds. We're going to charge you 450 for the exam alone. Right? Okay. Then work experience is standard 1,000 pounds. And then on the job support is 200 pounds a month. Now, this figure, don't let it scare you. Like, because if I say 200 pounds a month for how many months you want to do, maybe 3 months or 4 months, that costs you 600 pounds plus 1,000, that's 1,600 plus 450, that's like over 2,000 pounds already. So somebody say, oh, 2,000 pounds is too much. All right. Okay. You don't have to, like I said, do the certification with us. If you want to do the certification, you can do 450 plus 1,000, right? But we have a payment plan. If you look at this link here, if you click on it, which I'm going to show you in a moment, let me see if I've got it opened. Yeah, so this is it. So you have something like this where you pay 1,000, it goes to the bank account, or you pay 3 months over 3 months period. So they will not collect money from you today. They will take November, December, January, and that's how they're going to do it. All right. So you can split the payment over a 3 months period for that period. All right. So at the moment, we have people working on a project. They're working on a new platform we're building for an academy. We're building a platform like this, which is a membership site. Membership site like this we're building, and that's something that we're going to be building. So what we're planning to do is get this. We're going to do Scrum Master and Scrum Product to join this project, so that you can run the Scrum element of this, because you're joining it. But depending on how many people we got, if you have a lot of people, we might just give you your own project. But the key thing to take away is that you're going to have a project like this live that you can work on. You can put on your CV. We will do reference for you. All right. So if you want a payment plan, this is the link to send. I'm going to copy the link and put that in the stuff. But at the moment, the payment plan that we've done is based on this 1,000. If you want the certification and the work experience, just let us know. We will we'll create a payment plan for this for you as well. We can create a payment plan for this for you. Now, on the job support is 200 pounds a month, which means you don't need to pay for this now. You can pay for it when you finish the program and you want to get on the job support. So, and the on the job support is entirely up to you how long you want it for. You can want it for a month or 2 months, 3 months. It's entirely up to you. We recommend 6 months. Usually we recommend 6 months. But if you don't have the money, you don't want to pay, you can pay this one as you need it. Right now, the way this works is that once a week you're going to have a chat with your coach, to keep coaching you. You get access to on continuous project delivery. So as we get new projects, we get it to work on those projects at no cost, right? And what this also means essentially is that you get to put the name of our company on your CV longer. Remember, we're only going to cover you for 3 months. So 3 months, you put the name of the company on the CV for 3 months. At times, 3 months might not be long enough for you to say, oh, by the way, I'm working for this company for 3 months. But if you get on the job support, you can have that name of our company on your CV for longer. And then you also have access to live project that we're doing, and you get support from your coach once a week, right? The cohort, like I said, starts today. If you want a payment plan, you can use this link. And then with the next meeting we're going to meet will be next week at 3 p.m. UK time. So in terms of next steps, what we need is this. For everyone that's joined today, like I said, we'll give you Scrum Foundation certification. It's not the same thing as Scrum Master or Scrum Product Owner certification. It's totally two different things. It's Scrum Foundation, which means you get a foundational training in Scrum. It's online. You do it. It's probably going to be about an hour or 2 hour training, and then you get the certification. You write the exam, you get the certification. We'll give it to everybody who's joined today. if you want to take advantage of certification plus work experience or certification plus work experience plus job support, then please, we will be sending an email out later today or tomorrow to the email that you used to register. We'll send an email out, and if you want it, let us know, and then we'll create that for you. But please, the next training is 3 p.m. next week. Saturday is when the Scrum class will start. And then, yeah, that's it really. So let me check if any question here so that I can respond to that. Okay, no question from anybody. All right, I think, is there any question before we go? Somebody's asking question. Yeah, so the class, that's a good question. Is the class only on Saturdays? The coaching is going to be only on Saturdays, right? But because you are going to be working on a live project, you would end up meeting every day. Now, meeting every day is the time for the meeting every day is dependent on the team. So, for example, if you, I know there's somebody, a couple of people from the US who are interested in this course. Some people are in the UK. I don't know where that will come from. So we just need to choose a time that works for the team. So if the team chooses, let's say 12 o'clock UK time, then that means every day 12 o'clock UK time you meet up to talk about what you want to do or what you're working on. On our platform, let me see if I can show you here. On our platform, we have a Kanban board. So on the projectdeliverycoaching.com, we have a Kanban board here that we've created. So from next week, you can easily have this Kanban. This is a Kanban board. You can actually have tasks that you guys are working on, and basically the way the task is done, you just drag it. I don't know why it's not working. Yeah, you drag it to the next one. But essentially, you can drag it from here to here to here to here. So you have a Kanban board like that you can have on the platform that we just implemented this one this last week, right? So to answer the question, the coaching will be on Saturdays once a week, but because it's a live project, if the team needs to meet, because you need to have your daily stand-up, that will be determined by the team, the number of people that we get. All right, any other question? Let me copy the link. If you're interested in the payment plan, you can but this one I'm sending with you is just for the work experience, and it's not going to collect any money from you today. You're just going to set it up, and then there you go. So it's zero money coming from your pocket. The link I've just sent there is for the work experience 1000. Like I said, if you need the if you want to go join the certification, the work experience, and the other ones, you can let us know. We send you a different payment plan for that. Okay. Can you do this while you have a full-time job? 100%. 100%. So there's hardly anyone that has joined our program that is not working. People are working. So because it doesn't affect your day job, you can do this in the evening after work. Now the only thing is that, say for example, somebody, if they set your daily stand up for, let's say, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, what you're just going to do is just work your lunch time to that period for that 15 minutes, so you can jump on the call, attend the daily stand up, and then when you get back at home in the evening, you can respond to emails and then and respond. By the way, everybody who joins will get the other company that is going to be your employer, quote unquote employer, is Concept World Digital. So everybody who joins will get a Concept World Digital email address, and therefore you can communicate via that Concept World Digital email address. You have access to Teams, Microsoft Teams, that you can download on your phone. We are going to be using our platform as well, so that you can talk together. Essentially, I think I started to show you the platform earlier. Let me show you something else. One thing that we just implemented as well now is we implemented a video call link here. So essentially, going forward now, for those of our guys, I'm not sure that I know the code here. I think it's either this one. You can actually set up a call. You can have a video call with among yourself. Once you have this platform, it essentially bring you. See, you have something like this. So you can have something. So within our platform now, what we've implemented just now is you can have a video call like this. So which means you can meet with your team. You don't need to be waiting for Zoom link or Teams link. You can meet with the Zoom with your team on our platform and talk and have the conversation. So we just implemented this one this week. So we're just rolling it out. So implement this ability to be able to take call within our own platform and the Kanban board within our platform. So something that we just implemented as a new functionality this week. So that will also help you as well. Okay, let me go back to the question. So what time is the training on Saturdays? 3 p.m. 3 p.m. UK time. 3 p.m. UK time, right? It's gonna be for an hour, 3 p.m. UK time, and then yeah, that's it really. So we're gonna have product owner, we're gonna have Scrum Master, training, and then we'll take it from there. Any other question? Somebody's typing. Let's see, somebody's typing before we go. So the live project is already, what is it? When will the time for? So live project is already confirmed. We're starting today officially, but obviously as people register, we're just going to have our first meeting next week on the at 3 p.m. UK time, where based on number of people that registers, we then arrange how the training is going to go. So okay, I see what you mean in terms of whether you're going to work on this website that people are working on or a new one. I think depends on number of people that registers. If you have a lot of people, we're probably going to give you your own project. But if you have few people, then we'll get you to join the current project that's already ongoing that are building that side. Where they are now in that project, they are just doing requirement gathering, which is the perfect place for a Scrum team to join. Okay, the daily time for the meeting is 3 p.m. The daily time for the meeting, that depends on the team. So at 3 p.m. next week when we meet, depending on the number of people that join and where they are joining from, we will agree the daily meetup. So that day you will know. You cannot know earlier than that, because until we know how many people are joining before we can agree that. Can one do this as a full-time job? Yes. So let's say, for example, you finish. I'm expecting that when you get the training and you get it done, that you should be doing this as a full-time job. And you can make 400, 500 pounds a day. Whichever part of the world you are, you can definitely make this a full-time job. What certification do you get as product owner? You get Scrum certified product owner training, Scrum product owner certification. So we work with a company called Scrum Study. So you get Scrum Study certified product owner certification. That's what you're going to get. Okay, somebody's typing a question. How do we get the fundamental certification, and is it different from the 450 certification? So the fundamental certification is different. We will send you, for everyone who registers to this program, you're going to get an email from us where we will send you a link on how to register for it. Or we will add you at the back end, and you get an email that shows you how to log on and do it. Okay, but it's different from the 450. The 450 certification is a Scrum Master or Scrum Product Owner certification. That training is between 600 and 800 pounds. But because if you're taking advantage of our training, we will give you a discount so that you just pay the certification cost. Okay. Any other question? Okay, someone is typing. And I've posted the payment plan here. Remember, you don't pay anything today, but I must say to you, the company that's offering that, they will charge you maybe like £3 on top of 1,000, but they will take money 30 days from today from you. But again, you don't have to do that. If you want to pay, if you have the cash, you can pay. Just click on the link to pay the 1,000, and that's it. Okay. But the link to pay with payment plan is there. So any training for business analysts, yes, we are currently running a training at the moment but we are so far gone for business analysis that we will not take anybody now. At the moment, we've done business case development, we've done business business activity modeling, we've done assistant to be process mapping, we've done a number of stuff for business analysis already. That we are too far gone that we're not going to accept anybody for the current training. It's probably going to be in January now that will take a business analyst. We run a business analyst training. But if you go to our website, let me just copy that for you, projectdeliverycoaching.com. I think you might find some information there as well that will help you. Where are you? Sorry. So, where is the best place to start? Business analyst or Scrum Master? Depends. Depends on what your flair is. Both of them are all lucrative jobs. But always remember with Scrum, Scrum Master, you just need to be somebody who is a facilitator. Scrum Master is easier. I would say it's easier than business analyst. Because business analyst, you have to learn a lot of stuff, right? But Scrum Master is easier. Once you understand the ceremonies, you understand you can do facilitation of meetings, which anybody can do. If you've been to uni, then it's very easy, and it pays about the same amount of money. So my recommendation will be Scrum Master is far easier to start than business analysis. Business analysis, you have to learn a lot of stuff. There's so much stuff to learn in business analysis. Is Scrum Master easier than PM? In my opinion, yes. once you understand how Scrum Master works, how Scrum works, it's easier. PM, the challenge with project management is that you have all these stakeholder management at the top level. You have to produce this report and that report. You have to produce a dashboard, executive report, and all that kind of stuff. Now, in Scrum Master 2, you produce report, but report is easy because you just press a button, the system generates it for you. But in PM, you have to talk about the budget, you have to manage the risk, you have to manage how to, there are stakeholders that are not part of the team that you have to manage how to speak to them. I think the way you should look at it, PM is a leadership role beyond the team. That if you want to become a CEO and executive, somebody who's a CEO of a company, the PM route is good because you will build that capacity as you go along. You build how to manage senior executives, senior stakeholders, how to manage conversation to vendor and other kind of stuff. A Scrum Master will not need to deal with any of that. All right. And so that's why Scrum Master is easier to become. Okay. But if you have an aspiration to become like a CEO of a company, ultimately you still want to go down the pathway of the project manager. But if you want, like, okay, which one if I want to get into tech and I don't have a lot of experience, how quickly can I get into tech? Scrum Master is the way. You just go in there, understand the way it works, understand the ceremony, make sure you can get a grip of that, put your CV out there. And because there's so much demand in the market, then you get called. You might not make as much money in the beginning because obviously you don't have the experience. But as you persist there, you get opportunity to be able to prove yourself. Any other question? Okay, so I want to say thank you very much. Okay, somebody's typing. I'll just wait for you to type. Fantastic. I'm glad that you find it very useful. So what I would do is, if you have registered, like I said, during the week, early in the week, the team will set you up on the Scrum Foundation, which is our free gift to you. You go there, watch it, listen to it, do the exam. It's very simple. You can have that Scrum Foundation certification like within the next 2-3 days. And then when you come to if you decide to join us as part of what we do here, please, you also get in the email that we're going to send you another email that talks about for you to select your option, what you would like to do, and then we can set you up. You can set you up, and then we can see you at 3 p.m. Next week for working together with you on your journey. So on behalf of me and the rest of the team at Concept One Academy and projectdeliverycoaching.com, I want to say thank you very much for being part of tonight. The replay also will be sent back to you so that you can again listen to this again and again. And if you know anybody who needs to hear this, you can please share that with them. And again, so thank you very, very much. All right, thank you, and God bless you.